Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim, and thank you all so much for all the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. Today, we'll be talking something very important, and it's about this video. This white woman came out to make, and she started by main character syndrome about how white women treat black women, right? And she started by saying that a beautiful black woman will almost certainly trigger a white woman's main character syndrome. And I am like, why does that even mean? And all that. And she was like, I mean, like it triggers them every time. Why? Because they do not believe that black women deserve anything or black women deserve to be treated like princess or black women deserve something great, something good, and all that. Because in their own heart of heart, what they always call black women or angry black women or aggressive people and the rest of it. But they know right in their mind that black women are really amazing, but their jealousy will not let them settle or let them agree that they are not the only ones that deserve princess treatment, that black women also deserve princess treatment because for them, they believe that this is something that we should be getting. And why is it that it's coming from the other people and all that? These are also one of the reasons why, if you all remember when black women said that they would rather work with white men than work with white women because they have had their fair share working with white women. Let's get into this.
Seeing a beautiful black woman with a white man will almost certainly trigger a white woman's main character syndrome every time. If you're a white woman that follows me right now, you better not be getting that thumb ready to scroll, please. Because that was embarrassing what happened on that other video. Don't do that. Stay and listen. Like you would want a man to stay and listen when I talk shit about men. Be the change you want to see in the world, okay? Now, you may have heard me talk about main character syndrome in men, which is the idea that they are the main character and that everybody else around them fits into that narrative somehow, either as the sidekick, either as the villain, the mentor, etc. And when you are raised in a hierarchy, especially, again, a hierarchy that involves race as explicitly as the American hierarchy involves it, it's turtles all the way down. It's the same thing all the way down. While white men definitely do have the most amount and like the most egregious case of main character syndrome, everybody who participates in the American hierarchy, in the American caste system, all of these behaviors and actions, like they trickle all the way down. Yes, white men have like this very intense main character syndrome, but white women have also been given a very specific narrative about their place in that situation. And so they also have main character syndrome. That's where when a white man marries a black woman, it triggers white women's narrative. It triggers the narrative that something was taken from them because their whole life they grew up watching white Disney princesses end up with a white Disney prince. So that's how it goes. That's how you play the game, right? You take this doll and they go together, and that's how you play the game. What's triggered is that you are not supposed to be part of that narrative in any way as a black woman. You are not supposed to reap the benefits of being this close to the top of the hierarchy, right? It's almost like they see it in their eyes as like you've skipped a few steps on the ladder and you've ended up like, in a place that they could have gotten. It's kind of like that problem that white people have with affirmative action, right? It's like, well, what if there was a white person that was qualified to take that spot? And you just took it from them. Like, don't you feel bad? And this is why affirmative action is needed, because people think like that. Like you just told on yourself very loudly. But that's what it is. They are also confused because a white man isn't supposed to want a black woman. Like a white man is also supposed to be trained to want a white woman, to want the aesthetic, right, of a white woman. And just for everybody wondering how I know these things, it's education. Yes, some of it is observation, but it's reading books by black educators, but especially black women. I do Audible a lot. Like I actually have read a lot more than this, but I do a lot of Audible, so I'll just screenshot some recommendations for any other white people wanting to get educated. You can know these things in your heart. You can know things are wrong in your heart, but to actually be able to educate others or like put words to these things that actually like make sense, you have to listen to black women, especially because they have all the nuance. Okay, all the nuance is there. This is from Me and White Supremacy by Layla F. Saad. She says black women around the world experience this white gaze lens of being seen as angry, strong, aggressive, and wild, as well as being believed to be lesser in intelligence and beauty than other women. They are seen as either the aggressive adversary, the sassy sidekick, or the deferent devotee to white women. So of course a white woman is triggered and confused when you are chosen by a white man who was supposed to be the prince to her princess in her fairy tale, right? Like, it immediately makes sense. She's like, how can you like this aggressive and wild, angry and strong woman when I was taught my whole life that to get a man, I have to be all the opposite of these things? Obviously, the black woman can be whatever she is. Like, she's not obviously automatically angry or wild or any of these things. You don't know that. But in your mind as a white woman, that's what you assume, because these stereotypes have been so readily fed to you. And not only that, but you have been taught to be the opposite of these stereotypes. So to a white man, it should have been a no-brainer based on the stereotypes. And at the end of the day, what's upsetting, again, is that they have worked really hard for this certain thing that was pretty much supposed to be all but guaranteed to be theirs. And here comes somebody basically cutting in line. You are never supposed to surpass them on the ladder up to the top, because white women are supposed to get the opportunity first. Not only that, but a white man is never supposed to pick a black woman. You know, that's why so many white women are such pick-me's, because they were literally taught that men will pick you if you do certain things. And they actually put stock into that and grew up training themselves to do these things, to be unproblematic, to be very easygoing, keep sweet, pray and obey, whatever, right? Now they're surprised because their expectations have been subverted, right? It's that because whiteness comes from a lack mentality, it's that liking anything about a black woman is automatically an insult to a white woman. A crazy way to think, obviously, but nevertheless it happens. And the emulation stems from kind of the exact same place. White women have always been told that they are the beauty standard. It was like Marilyn Monroe, like if the sex symbol was always, always, always a white woman. But once the capitalists figured out they could exploit black women for that too, they were like, oh great, we'll just do that. Nobody thought about how that would affect the white women, who have always been told that them being the highest standard of beauty is safe. It's safe and sound. Like, no black woman will ever be considered as beautiful as like a mediocre looking white woman. Those days were past, right? All of a sudden. And all of a sudden they started being like, oh wait, there's something I'm missing out on. And it's this whole like, that should have been me. That should have been me and not you. Basically that idea, right? And there's also what's hard-coded into capitalism, which is basically you either compete or you get left behind. So that's why all the Kardashian sisters went and got everything done like the way that they did. Because black women can be sex symbols now too. And white women raced, right? So they said, oh, so if these are the features that men want, then I will give them that. Me, a white woman. That's basically where I think that comes from. This part is for the white women that are, I trust, better still be here. Why do you need to look at anti-blackness against black women? It is my belief that the rising and empowerment of black women is one of the biggest threats to white supremacy. Knowing this, white supremacy works particularly hard to stifle, undermine, marginalize, demonize, and harm black women. All anti-blackness, regardless of who it is directed at, paints black people as inferior in all ways, except the ways that can be used by non-black people for non-black gain. When it comes to black women, this treatment is compounded by the added marginalization faced under sexism. From negative stereotypes that trap black women in a one-dimensional imagination to the way that black women's bodies have been treated less like the bodies of human beings and more like the bodies of animals. Anti-blackness against black women is killing black women, both physically and psychologically. So if you call yourself a feminist, you want to call yourself a feminist, you want to rah-rah under my videos where I talk shit about men, but you don't want to look at this, you don't want to look at anti-blackness against black women, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself. You're no better than Susan B. Anthony and her little minions, that when they were given their rights, they took them and ran with them. And they left the black women that worked with, that protested with, that marched with, did everything with. These white women left them in the dust to fend for themselves. They took their rights and they ran. And I'll be damned if anybody following me thinks it's going to be like that. It's not going to be like that, if I can help it. That's embarrassing. That's a shameful moment in American history, and in American women's history especially. How you are in relationships with and to black women speaks volumes about where you are in your anti-racism journey. Do you feel like you cannot relate to black women? Do you covet black women's physical attributes, yet secretly feel disdain for them as human beings? Do you assume black women are less educated, less affluent, and less capable than you? These are just some signs that you harbor anti-blackness against black women. This anti-blackness needs to be excavated, confronted, and owned in order for you to practice anti-racism. So let's get to work. It's something that we all have to continuously practice and reflect on, myself included. I may be from Ukraine, but America will definitely do a number on you. Like I said, it really forces you into this hierarchy, whether you want to be part of it or not. You cannot just go with the flow. You have to actively fight back against it. That's what people mean when they say, like, you need to educate yourself. They don't mean you're a horrible racist and you need to blah, blah, blah. What people mean when they say you need to get educated is you need to start swimming upstream. You need to stop going with the flow, and you need to use your muscles to head upstream, because upstream is the only way to solve all of these problems. You need to go as far upstream as you can. So if you want to abolish one system of power, you have to go upstream and abolish them all. And the only way to do that is to get educated, because otherwise this world literally tells you, this country especially, but this world tells you in so many ways that it's okay to be racist. It excuses so much racist behavior that people don't even know they're doing it. And then when they're confronted with it, they feel ashamed and they freak out. Don't feel ashamed. Feel empowered. Feel empowered that you can be educated and that you can stop doing this shit. Okay? Let's get to work. Godspeed. Mwah.
Whiteness comes from a lack mentality. It's that liking anything about a black woman is automatically an insult to a white woman. Finally, one of y'all stop playing dumb for a fucking second. I always say that white men will unalive you, but white women will get someone else to unalive you for them. Y'all are so insidious because you're sold this dream, and when the dream doesn't match up, and when the people who you were taught were never even supposed to have a whiff of your dream get it, you go fucking batshit. This isn't just for dating, okay? This is an academic setting. This isn't a career setting. This is in the things that you have, in the things that you want, in your spirituality, the way that you move around. Y'all constantly think that the world revolves around you, but then you deflect that attention away and just put it towards white men. And this is why I don't trust y'all. This is why I don't want to have any white women friends. I want nothing to do with you because you're extremely manipulative. I'd rather have someone punch me right in the face than use manipulation tactics to make me go insane and punch myself in the face. Y'all are not fucking slick. You're actually pretty stupid with your tactics, and now that more and more people are catching on, bitch, you can't hide. Y'all are sitting there and you're getting mad at what's happening on the stage, getting mad that people aren't putting on the presentation that you wanted, but bitch, what did you do backstage? What is your man trying to do backstage? The reason why we haven't progressed with feminism is because white women won't take accountability. Bitch, I said what I said. Come at me, I don't give a fuck.
The currency of whiteness is compliance, especially American westernized whiteness. The currency is compliance. And the reason that white women are so curious about you as a black woman in the South is because they are confronted with that fact, but they just don't know it. In their mind, when they see you, it triggers like this response of like non-compliance, like somebody's not complying. Like, what is she doing here? She's not supposed to be here. She's not complying with the order, and that threatens us. And I noticed this because I wasn't raised in the US, I was raised in Ukraine. We don't come face to face with racism a lot in Ukraine because there is no opportunity for it. It's pretty much like an all-white country, right? So that's not to say that racism wouldn't exist if given the opportunity. As soon as it is, it happens. As soon as it's given an opportunity. Like in the beginning of the war, when people were pushing black people off of trains, like to get on. It'll very much crop up there if it's given the opportunity to. I'm not saying that it's not a problem in Ukraine or other countries like it. People are racist, they just don't know it until they're actually confronted with having to deal with people of color. What I will say is because of that, because we don't have that dynamic of like slavery and segregation and like all of these things, that's why there's this common like sentiment in America about Slavic women that they're just built different, right? They may appear very feminine and like feminized or whatever, but you know, their husband is scared of them. They know that they actually control the entire dynamic kind of thing, right? Because you can only oppress women so much if there is no class below them, right? The only class that's below women in Ukraine are children. And we don't really have like a huge problem with homelessness or anything like that. There is not this multi-step hierarchy, right? There's only this power dynamic between men and women, but it's been balanced out pretty well, right? Like, yes, they're horrible Ukrainian men. I'm not denying that. Yes, some Ukrainian men are abusers and they use like religion and they use all sorts of things to abuse women. But on a large scale, what I grew up seeing was not skittish, abused women. I grew up seeing strong Slavic women because when there's nothing else to threaten women with other than like, oh, you're not going to get married or have a man or whatever, then you don't hold that much power as a man, especially in the courting stage, like in the dating stage. Like Slavic men are on their best behavior, and there's just as much stigma for divorce for men as there is for women. The dynamics are just a little different. They're a little bit more balanced out, I would say, between men and women. Now, where America differs is that because it's such a melting pot and like all of this, the hierarchy is just turned up to 11. I mean, white women are so obsessed with compliance and they're so obsessed with keeping their place in this hierarchy because there are levels that they don't want to be brought down to. right? One of those levels being you're going to be treated like a black woman. And that I mean you're going to be hypersexualized, you're going to be treated as a second-class citizen, you're going to be made up a bunch of narratives about, and you're going to be considered like unfeminine, unruly, and whatever, etc., etc. There's like so many layers to this, right? So the reason that they're curious or that they're threatened, and I mean curious is a very gentle word you use. Like I would say that they are threatened. Threatened because they feel like you're taking over. In the video that this comment was left on, this is what I talked about, right? White women in the American patriarchy are especially dangerous to black women because they are okay with the structure of the patriarchy because they gave up a lot to belong to it. And by that I mean they gave up their personalities, right? This is why they have plastic smiles and no joy in their eyes, because it's all about compliance. It's not about having your own personality. It's not about having your own goals, hopes, dreams. It's about compliance. The same thing that I noticed about women in America too. As a Ukrainian woman, like I was not so used to women just like hiding their joy, their surprise, their anger, especially. Like white women really hide their anger because that belongs to men. In this racially charged patriarchy, anger belongs to men, but also like black people are very demonized for their anger, especially black women, right? It's angry black woman stereotype. So white women can't be that, right? If they want to keep their place in the hierarchy, which they have already worked really hard to get there and to keep, they don't want you coming along into their country club and being prettier than them, being wealthy on your own, like because they had to give all that up. They had to give all that up. And that's why they're threatened by you. And the reason that they hover around you is because that's the only compliant way for them to make you feel unwelcome. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Jordan Peele captured this really well in Get Out when he had the black people acting like white people, and it was so uncanny. That's because there is that difference. Especially in the case of Georgina, that's exactly what a white woman would look like in a black woman's body. It would be very uncanny. And the way that Georgina asserted her power was by always hovering around and being in people's business. And that's what white women do. Like, that's the most threatening that a white woman can get, is to just, you know, be there, just hovering and getting in your business. That's why there's the same like stereotype about, you know, youth pastors' wives and like pastors' wives in general, is that they just have this very disconcerting presence where with a smile on their face, they will look you dead in the eyes and say the most fucked up misogynistic shit so that they can continue propping up the patriarchy. Right? And it's just creepy. It's creepy how they act, because it's like, why are you saying all this with a smile on your face? Because of compliance. Because the compliance part of the white woman handbook says that you have to be pretty, smiling, quiet, not cause trouble, never get in the way of the men. And the most important thing you can do is to support the patriarchy and to make sure that the men have a clear path forward, because you're next in line. You're next in line. But it's like the men are never going to move out of your way, babe. They're never going to move out of your way. But white women still, like, they have this very particular relationship, especially white women in America. They have this very particular relationship to white men, to men in general, right? Which is why White Woman Whisperer got all this hate for pointing stuff out, and she got like demonetized, like her videos were getting reported. The white women were very vicious, but very quietly, you know, very quietly, in that very compliant way. And yet when a black man went on his platform and used his platform to speak up for White Woman Whisperer and to call white women out, the white women in his comments were very nice. They were very like, yes, like well said, you know, they were feeling very called out. They were not reporting his videos. It's this very interesting relationship that white women have with the patriarchy, because they feel like they're so close to the top that it makes sense for them to keep maintaining these kinds of statuses and behaviors. And I noticed this like right away about, you know, Western white women, is that they stifle themselves a lot. They control themselves a lot. Again, this was very well exemplified in Get Out, when the main white woman character, like everything about her is just putting on an act so that what she can actually be is this very controlled, very meticulous, very collected psychopath. You know, like when she's just eating like a single Fruit Loop and drinking one single sip from the straw, like that's all intentional. Like the fact that she has all of these like keepsakes of the previous boyfriends that she's lured over into this whole scheme, because she is not actually what she pretends to be. She pretends to be a real person with real feelings and pretends to like fit into the male gaze, and she fakes sympathy and she fakes empathy and she even can fake anger and all this stuff. But in reality, she's very self-controlled. She's very meticulous. She's very like determined. Like she has a goal. She has an end goal in mind, and she's already planning out her next venture. And I noticed this a lot. Like this was actually really shocking to me, because like in Ukraine, like if a bitch doesn't like you, she doesn't like you. You know what I mean? There's not a whole lot of pretending. Like everything is kind of out in the open. Like in America, it's like these white women will be so nice to your face. They will pretend like they want the best for you. They will pretend like they have empathy and sympathy and that they totally understand what you're going through, to turn around and literally stab you in the back and exercise their power over you. When my parents came here to America, they very specifically wanted to attend like an English speaking church so they could learn English faster. And so we went to this very conservative, like, little church, and it was just full of like the WASP demographic, and it was very creepy and uncanny trying to interact with these people like as a normal person. You never know what they're thinking. You never know what's behind their eyes. You never know what's behind their smiles. They'll like nod and agree as though they really hear you and like understand what you're saying. But really, it's not that. They're just complying. They're just controlling themselves from saying what they really feel. And you could tell they didn't know what to do with us because we were like by all means white, but they still saw us as below them. They still saw us as immigrants, and they would talk to us, you know, really slow. Even though my parents would respond back in normal speed and everything like that, they just couldn't help but treat us like second-class citizens. It was very unsettling, very uncanny. No matter what, in America, you are going to take your spot, you take your place in the hierarchy. Even if you refuse, other people will do it for you. They will place you where you belong. And in my opinion, at the end of the day, this all stems from the fact that whiteness is actually like a lack of things. Whiteness is more about what you're not and less about what you are. This is why white people have no culture, because culture is a thing that can be used to degrade people and to make them feel like they're less than. And that's why white people are like, oh, no, none of that. We don't do any of that. You know, the culture is very prim, proper, polite, and it's more based around what you don't do rather than what it is you do. And the things that you do are very performative and only exist to perpetuate a certain hierarchy. Really freaky observing it as a foreigner. Like, even though I know that, again, I'm white, I definitely like benefit from the system. And I'm definitely also not saying that Ukrainians would be better than any other white people if they were confronted with the real life implications of what American people have been presented with. But that's really the problem. I hope I was able to articulate any of this in a way that makes sense, but these are just my thoughts on that. And please stay safe out there, because women like that are just waiting for a chance to like take you down. I love you so much. Godspeed.
So this is all I got from the stitches, and I am happy that one of them actually said it. It's not like Black women do not know some of this or most of these. I mean, these are the things they've also been acting on for a longer time, because I have been watching how most are so into Black men, but do not want to have anything to do with Black women. Yet they don't want anything to do with what they want to look like. They want to do like Black women, do like Black women, talk like Black women, dress like Black women. And I found out that immediately they start dating a Black man, you see them, they wear braids, they want to look like Black women and all that. And I am like, how can you not like their sisters, but you want their like you want the man? I mean, like, it's kind of really confusing how you do not want the other part, but you want the other part from the same race. You know, sometimes it's very confusing, but it's what it is, because I have seen so many of this. Like, take time, for those that have not observed that, take your time to check all this out, how they are probably before they started dating a Black man. And then when they start being with a Black man, watch out how they dress, their attitude and all that. The same people they tell you that they do not like or they do not want to associate themselves with, probably because they say we are aggressive or we are kind of manly, because they also come out to say that we act like men and all that, and we're so aggressive, we are built somehow and all that. You see them wanting to look like the same people they said they are criticizing. So all this that I see, and I am like, there is really something wrong. This also tells you how most of them act on what they act. Like, the woman actually also went further to explain something that got to do the white woman whisperer or something like that. The woman that spoke about how white women behave how they behave towards Black women and all that, and also got her account, demonetized and all that. Now, let's come back to the real story. The truth is that most of them really do know what they are doing, right? Because they have already checked out, the strength of Black women, how they've been carrying themselves, all these years, how they do their things and all that. One thing I found out is that if you can beat them, you probably might be very, very jealous, very, very jealous of a certain people, but you cannot beat them. if you want to learn about Black people, the best you can do is go closer to Black people or Black women to learn about them. You can't go out, you can't just all of a sudden want to know them, right? And the ones that said that, Black women are this, Black women are that, they run around on Black men because I really don't get that aspect of them wanting Black men when they do not like Black women. It's kind of crazy. But the truth is that Black women are not even going to dim their lights for anybody. You all have been really, some of them have been really very jealous that they don't hide it anymore. You can actually say that they are really intimidated by the powers or by how Black women carry themselves, on how they have shown, because all these years, they have shown so much strength in themselves, believing in themselves and the rest of it. And I have also noticed that during the Black women effect, you all remember what happened during Black women effect, white men trying to show how their life already changed when they came across Black women. Most of them were really very sad. Why is it that they are showing up Black women and all that? That tells you how crazy or how mad they go when they see a Black woman living peacefully or doing very well with a palm-colored man and all that. They are usually not comfortable with that because they believe that they should be the one getting all the treatment and all that. But sometimes it doesn't work that way, right? So they do not believe that Black women have this feminine, because to them, this is to them, we all act aggressively and not act like women and all that. So we do not deserve princess treatment, or we do not deserve to be with a man and all that. So it's really crazy how most of you are rushing Black men and then do not want Black women to be with their other destiny. It's kind of crazy, but it is what it is. But in essence, some of them, some of them, I don't know why they do it, but I have noticed some of them do not like to speak up. Not like they do not like to speak up. How do I explain this? You know, when somebody is angry and you are supposed to tell somebody that I am angry with you or something like that, they look for a way to suppress it. Suppress it. And then behind you, they are working overtime behind you. Why? Because they do not believe in somewhat like according to what she also said, I have also experienced that, because they do not believe in probably saying or expressing how you feel. They will rather bottle it up and then work behind you to do whatever they want. But Black women are straight up going to call you and straight up talk about it straight up right in front of your face. And the thing they are doing us, they are doing themselves, because this is also part of the reason why they actually said that Black women also did not choose to work with them, because most of them have experienced had horrible experiences, and them also came out to confirm that it is very hard working with them than any other set of people, because they have also experienced it. So what is there not to talk about? You all cannot say it. I love the fact that she came out to say it, and it is true. She did not lie. But then it is what it is. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.